Hi, I'm Yvonne from Pree Designs. Thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel. It's week 2 of July, so we are up to card 2 of my one bundle 4 ways using the Pretty Poinsettia bundle of products, which are found in our July online exclusives. Okay, let's turn the camera around and get started. The Pretty Poinsettia bundle is from our July online exclusive product. We've got a whole list of products that are released every 2 months, and this is the bundle right here. I'll put a link to the bundle and also all the products that I've used in today's card in my description. So this is card number 1, which I showed you last week, a great little design with the shimmery stripes paper. And then this is today's card, which is card number 2. Same products basically, except change the colours. Instead of the cherry cobbler, I've brought in Night of Navy, and I've just done the poinsettias in white. I've done an interesting background in the back there, just on the basic white cardstock, just totally different from your traditional colours. To show you the Pretty Poinsettia stamp set, that's it there. And it also has matching dies. You can see here, I'll just shift that one out of the way, the open dies down here coordinate with the stamps here. And then these dies work perfectly with your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, but an added feature is they will pop if you also purchase the impressions mat to go with it. But I'll show you as I run through how to make the card. So sit back and have fun while you watch me make this card. Thanks very much. Right, so we're starting off with a card base, just a thick basic white, which is half of an A4 sheet. So the finished edge is 10.5 by 14.8, and then a Night of Navy matte. Just notice my burry edges, so I need to either change my blade. I'll just, for this one, just grab a piece of sanding paper to sand that off. This is 14.3 by 10 centimetres, and then I'm going to do a white, basic white overlay, and that is 13.8 by 9.5. I'm just bringing in a laminated sheet to preserve my work surface, and I'm using Night of Navy and a blending brush. This is actually clean. I just reuse them, wash them under the tap, and then leave them to dry overnight. Sometimes they get a little bit stained, but works perfectly still. So I like to rub my blending brush across the top of the ink pad rather than bash it in or tap it in. Bashing, probably not a great word, but if you tap it in, you will get more ink into the bristle. Wiping it across the top, you just get a nice film of ink across the bristle there. Then I always like to just rub it off a little bit and then go straight onto my cardstock. Now I just want to make a bit of interest on my cardstock, so I want to lay down some colour. You can see that's coming through now. All right, so this is the human element. When I was editing my video, I realized that I had actually missed videoing this step. I had forgotten to click record because I do my videos in segments so that I can edit it and remove any unnecessary bits just so they're not quite so long. So to put some interest on this piece of card, I've actually got my Wink of Stella pen. I always squeeze it over a silicone mat so that if I get too much, I can just still pick that up without wasting. So I'm just using the lid of the Wink of Stella to flick the brush gently, because you don't want to damage the brush, but you can just see there I'm getting some nice interest and some nice detail with the glitter from the Wink of Stella coming out. I'll just pick that up so that you can see it, hopefully. You can just maybe see that. Oh, there you go, a little bit of the shimmer. All right, so I'll insert this bit into the video. Will look a little bit different from the original card, but I wanted to show you how I did this particular part. All right, so I'm going to do a similar effect with my aqua painter. So I'm just going to push on the push section of the aqua painter to get that started. I just want to have a little bit of water on the end. And again, using the tip of my brush, I'm just going to flick some water onto the page. I can just see some tiny little water droplets there, and that'll add a little bit more interest. Okay, I think that's more than enough. So I've got quite an interesting little piece here now. I'm going to go away and I'll dry that off with the setting one on the heat tool. Right, so now it's time to die cut. I'm bringing in my Pretty Poinsettia dies and just a couple of pieces of scrap basic white. Don't need a whole new sheet, and I will just set these up and then take them over to the cut and emboss machine to die cut. These are just leftover little bits of basic white. As I said, I don't want to overlap my dies because that will mark them. And then for the leaf piece, I'm actually going to use some of this stunning, you'll see I've already cut one out, shimmery stripes paper. So I want to get the best use out of my paper, so I will just see where I can fit it without wastage. Nope, it's going to go there, and then I'll use the little pieces for something else. All right, be back in a moment. Right, so there are all my dies cut, which is using the poinsettias, the 4 pieces. So I've got a small and large poinsettia. And then I want to make the dies pop. So we use plate 1 and 2, put the dies back onto plate 2 with the already die cut piece in there. Now I'm just going to pull this one out. You can see that that does have a little bit of the impressions from the dies on there. Now I've got to get that back in the right one. And that's not the right one. Let's have a little play. Get it to sit back in the right die. There we go. I just want to push that down to make sure that's nicely in place. So then we put on this new mat, which is the Impressions mat. Now I showed this in my video for last week's card number 1. You simply put that over the top, and then you use your embossing plate, which is plate number 4, and then run it through your cut and emboss machine. Then when you've run it through, you're left with, the dies often pop off at this point, but this one hasn't. So you're left with a beautifully embossed leaf image or petal image. So much more detailed and than just the die itself. Having this Impressions mat makes all the little veins, particularly on the leaf here, pop through the die in the space because this is soft. Okay, so let's get all of those pieces to work. If I can get them off. No, it doesn't want to come off. And I just realised I forgot to do the little centres of the poinsettia, so I'll just zip off and do that. I'm going to do that in the stripy paper as well. There's my little centres done. And now it's time to put them all together. So I will start off with my, if I could pick them up, with my base pieces. That and that, and the smaller one and that one. I'm going to put a tiny dot of glue, and I mean tiny. I've just bent that one a little bit, but that'll be okay once it goes on the card. Just make sure that you've got your veins popped up, facing upwards. There's no, I don't believe, right or wrong way of putting these poinsettias together. I just like to see as much of the variance of the petals as I can, so I do play with them a little bit to get them in just the right spot. That's fine. And then another tiny dot of glue. You could use a toothpick if you're worried about putting too much glue on. Just pushing that in a little bit just so that it sticks well. And you can see that because I'm on the silicone mat, those petals are just popping up a little bit. And then we're going to bring our card base back in to put everything together. So this piece has dried off nicely. You can see that it's got some nice interest and some nice detail. I'm going to flat glue that onto my Night of Navy mat. And then I'm going to dimensional that onto my card base. But before I do that, I will put my flowers on. So I'm going to use mini dimensionals to put my flowers on, but I'll put my leaf detail on first. Flip that over. Now, you can put as many dimensionals on as you wish. I put usually 3 on something like this because I actually don't want it to be stuck hard and fast to the card front. I actually want it to have a little bit of movement. Oops, it's sticking to my fingers instead. So that looks pretty good. Now you can see now that really picks up all the wink of Stella on the card base because of the shimmery stripe paper that I've cut the leaf out of. Oops. Now I did think about putting a little bit of the blending brush in the center of the poinsettia to make them blue, but I decided against that. But that's, again, something you could do. Just use your blending brush a little bit in the middle there. And then the final poinsettia, take all the backs off, down here. Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far. And then I'm just going to dimensional that onto my card base. And I'm just using some edge pieces of the mini dimensionals. I waste nothing of the dimensionals. I use every little skerrick. So you can see here I've just cut wedges off. Take the backing paper off. And attach that to the card base. All right, now I need to bring in a greeting. All right, so I'm just bringing back in one of the pieces that I trimmed off the edge of the basic white earlier, and I'm using the stamp set, the piece that says Bright Christmas Wishes. So I just need to make sure I get this straight. Otherwise, luckily, I have 2 sides of the paper. Yep, that's pretty good. And then I'm going to snip it because I actually don't want the bright on there for this card. I just want the Christmas wishes. Trim that off. A couple of mini dimensionals on the back. Papers off. And I'm going to pop this up here. It looks pretty good. Christmas. Need to make sure that it's straight. Christmas wishes. Then the final thing we need for the card front is some sparkle. So I'm using the basic rhinestones. Now these have been in for years and years and years. I absolutely love them. They can be coloured with your blends. They can be stay as the silver. You can see how easy it is for me to pick these up with my take your pick tool. Haven't decided where that one's going to go. Down here. No, don't like that down there. Up there. Okay, then the actual final thing I need to do is an envelope and insert. So I'm using the tiny little poinsettias from the matching stamp set, which is the Pretty Poinsettia stamp set. And I'm just stamping in the Night of Navy. I'll do 2 little sets of stamps. That is for the insert. And then the envelope. Oops, I didn't realise my ink's gone off screen. And put some stamps on the back. Then whoever gets this knows they are getting happy mail, not boring mail. And then close my ink pad up. I just put some tape runner on the back of this and add it to the card. So thanks very much for stopping by. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how this card has come together using the Pretty Poinsettia bundle. So that is card number 2 for week number 2. and bringing back in card number 1 from week number 1. Stay tuned for next week to see what I create using exactly the same bundle of products with the Pretty Poinsettia bundle. Thank you.